Welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Sit back and listen to interviews, discussion about books, and anything else literary. There's always something or someone new on the show. Okay. Good evening, listeners. Welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast, Behind the Books, Honest Voices, Real Stories. I'm Amy Shandon, and each episode brings you heartfelt conversations with the storytellers behind the stories, authors, publishers, and creatives who shape the literary world. And every second Sunday, join me for story time where tales come alive for all ages. Let's turn the page together. Today we have an author with us, and would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Amy. Sorry. My name's Danny Carroll. I'm the author of currently two best-selling books. My first book was called Terminal Cancer is a Misdiagnosis. That got multiple bestsellers on Amazon and won the Global Book Awards in the category of medical books in 2023.
Congratulations.
Yes, amazing. My second book is called Breast Cancer is a Misdiagnosis, and that won 2 Global Book Awards in 2023. Yes, I got 2 this time, Amy, so it's getting better, yes.
That's great.
It won the Global Book Awards in the category of ailments and psychology and counselling. That got multiple bestsellers again on Amazon, including in the main breast cancer category. But it was banned in my home country of the UK.
Why was it banned?
The UK has something called the 1939 Cancer Act, where cancer is only legislatively allowed to be treated using chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. And pretty much anybody who tries anything other than those modalities typically are thrown in prison.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. So if I had cancer and I tried an alternate treatment, then I would have been thrown in prison.
You wouldn't have been, but the person helping you probably would have.
Oh, wow. This is, okay.
Yes.
I had no idea, but thank you for bringing that to light. That is disconcerting in a way. So you have another one coming out, and this one's on lung cancer?
My third book is on lung cancer, yes. I'm actually in the process of writing now. Don't fall off your chair. I'm actually in the process of writing a 500 plus book series, one book on each disease. So my first book, Terminal Cancer, was an introduction to the German medical doctor who made the body of medical discoveries that my books are based upon. The first organ level book was on breast cancer, the second one on lung cancer, and I will now work my way through all of the diseases. I'm basically picking them off in the order that people die from first. So I'm trying to get the most important ones out first, and then slowly I will work my way through every disease known to man.
Wow. I mean, I'm impressed. I wrote a 67-volume fiction series from a town, but 500? Wow. I am so impressed.
I mean, it's an estimate, Amy, right? I mean, it might end up 300, 400, 500, or 600, right? I mean, depends on how I end up bundling the diseases together. But it's going to be a substantial book series.
Will the diseases, will they all be some type of cancer, or it could be something else?
At the end of the journey, the library will have every disease known to man. As I mentioned, I'm starting off with the problems that kill the most people to try and get the most critical information out the earliest. But ultimately it will cover everything: arthritis, diabetes, heart disease, Parkinson's disease, all of the things.
Wow. I mean, I have a due to an injury, a functional nerve disorder. So it just kind of, my brain sends the wrong signals to my body. So sometimes I'm in a wheelchair and other times I'm not. And just when I think I'm feeling a little bit better, my brain's like, boom. So, and that's
Maybe we could go offline and talk that through, Amy. I might be able to help you with it.
hey, I'd love it. Because everybody thinks, oh, we'll try to fix you. Yeah, you can't fix me.
I
So,
mean, just to let you into a little secret, it's not possible for anybody to fix anybody. It's only possible for us to fix ourselves.
well, I like that. And I
So
try.
I can guide you on how you can fix yourself, but I can't fix you, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's okay. I was broken by my ex-husband, so I
Yeah.
didn't, but I lived and he's not. So that's what I go through every day. I'm just glad that every day I wake up is a good day for me.
It's another day above ground, Amy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. So with you writing these books, what is your background,
Mm.
for like, okay, you're gonna, especially like the first one I read, about terminal cancer, and
That's right.
I was, drawn to it. I mean, I didn't have terminal cancer, but in 2004 I had cervical cancer, and now they're trying to rule out a different kind of cancer. But what made you write that first one, and what's your background of knowledge or what you do for research? I'm very curious.
Right. So, the first thing is I'm not a doctor. My journey started about 20 years ago. I had a friend who was diagnosed with cancer. And I live in Bombay in India. So I'm across the other side of the world. My friend had cancer, and there's no social health care in India. So in India, if you can't afford a treatment, then basically you're out of luck. So I basically funded her cancer treatment, and I ensured her compliance with treatment. She used to message me, when she was in hospital saying, Danny, I don't know what these doctors are doing, but it feels like they're putting poison in my veins. At the time, I knew no better, and I strongly encouraged her to continue with the treatments. And basically, she had 3 rounds of chemotherapy, and she died. And I was shocked, devastated. I
I'm very
funded,
sorry for your loss.
I funded her treatment, and I wouldn't say forced, but I strongly encouraged her compliance. And it was devastating. I was literally in a state of shock. I couldn't believe when she went into hospital. I mean, they said she had cancer, right? But she looked fit and fine from the outside. And I couldn't believe that she was dead in less than a month.
Wow.
So at the time I was working in venture capital. I have no history in either conventional medicine or in any alternative medicine modality. In fact, when I started, I was in my early 30s, and I swore at the time that I would search the ends of the earth to find a better solution to the problem they call cancer.
Right.
Trauma has that effect on you, Amy, right?
Yeah.
So so I started my journey. I spent the best parts of a decade studying every modality, including conventional medicine and alternative medicine, nutritional healing, energy healing, emotional healing, everything that had a sense of promise,
Right.
that could solve the problem. I studied. And what happened is in 2012, I went through a spontaneous healing experience. what happened is I had golf ball sized knots in all of the muscles, all of the major muscle groups in my body. I mean, my calf muscles, my thighs, my
Oh my
arms, my
goodness.
back, right? Literally golf balls, these huge, great big knots in my muscles. And at the time, I was running ultra marathons. An aside, I got in the Guinness Book of Records running ultra marathons in 2010.
Wow.
And that was the period in my life where I had a bad running habit. So, when I had these golf ball knots in my muscles, I could barely walk, let alone run.
Right.
And what happened, I had those in my muscles for 6 months, and I was in physio having the knots ironed out of my muscles. Okay. And the way the physio does this is they put their elbows into your muscles, and then they put their body weight on their elbows, and then they iron out the muscles, which causes tremendous bruising, pain, and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And what happened is every time they ironed these knots out of my muscles, I'd go back 2 days later and the knots all came back again. So
Oh,
I was on this excruciatingly painful merry-go-round for about a 6 month period.
wow.
Um, and I faced I've also got, like you, gone through divorce. I separated from my ex-wife in 2011. I met my new life partner, in 2012, who happened to be an American diplomat. She was posted in my hometown of Bombay for 2 years. And after she left Bombay, her second posting was in Santiago de Chile. So when we started dating, we agreed that at the end of the 2 year period that we would go our separate ways, because nobody in their right mind has a long distance relationship between India and South America, right?
Right.
Yes, that is not a good idea. Uh, so what happened is 6 months before she's leaving, I start getting these mysterious knots in my muscles. So the night before she was due to leave, I went to her place, to say my goodbyes and farewells and to terminate and end the relationship and do all of those great things. And the problem is, Amy, that we had become soulmates.
Yeah.
We had a relationship with no expectations, where it was expected to be a 2 year relationship where it is planned for termination. So it was just a non-committal, fun relationship,
Right.
that fosters a great environment to foster soulmate relationships, Amy, right? So the night before she was due to leave, I went to terminate the relationship, and we had a very, very, very difficult discussion, where we mutually concluded that we could not end the relationship, and that we were essentially forced to do a long distance relationship between India and Chile, which is more than a 40-hour journey, right?
Yeah.
And what happened is we had this discussion on the Friday night, and when I woke up on the Saturday morning, all of the knots in my muscles magically had disappeared overnight. So
Wow.
I went through this spontaneous healing experience where I had these massive knots in my muscles for 6 months. I resolved the problem of terminating the relationship with my soulmate. And when I woke up Saturday morning, the knots had all magically disappeared. Now I was blown away. I'm like, oh my God, what is this all about?
Right.
So I've been on a journey since 2012 of studying the subject of spontaneous healing.
You think it has
Um,
something to do with like emotion or mental being in some
yeah, I
way?
mean, what I discovered, nature never does anything without a purpose, Amy, right? So
Yeah.
what I discovered is essentially those knots in my muscles. I mean, most people have experienced that when they get stressed, right?
Yeah.
You get knots in your shoulders and your neck, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing. It's just on a greater scale.
Oh,
So what I discovered is those knots, the biological purpose of those knots in my muscles essentially were to stop me from going in the wrong direction of ending the relationship with my soulmate.
yeah, I can see that. I can.
So when it happened, I didn't know why the knots came. And I didn't know why the knots disappeared. I mean, at the time, I was in the middle of my looking for the cure for cancer journey. So I was vegan. I turned vegan for 5 years to test the nutritional hypothesis. I was studying emotional healing with using a UK system called the Bach Flower Remedies. I
Hmm.
was studying energy healing. But what I many years after going through that experience, so essentially since 2012, I've been studying spontaneous healing to find out what you need to do to trigger this process consciously.
Right.
Okay, what I learned along the journey is that historically I'd been studying nutritional healing, which fixes the body, and emotional healing, which fixes the emotions, and energy healing, which fixes the energy, and all of the things, right?
Yeah.
But our system is an integrated system. You can't study part by part. You
Yeah.
can't study the emotions separately because they don't exist on their own.
Right.
When you when you get stressed, you either get knots in your neck or your shoulders, or your face goes red and your ears go red and your blood pressure rises
Yeah.
because this is an integrated system.
Yeah.
So historically, I've been studying all of the parts in isolation, but not as a holistic system where we understand that when we're in a turbulent environment, you know, we're getting divorced or we're splitting up from a relationship or somebody unexpectedly passes away. I mean, when we get into an environment where we have this stress that comes at us,
Yeah.
then basically the way our body is designed to make us survive. So the way our body responds basically is to either increase or decrease our capacity to help us solve the problem. So our blood pressure goes up, our blood sugar level goes up, our cortisone levels go up in order to give us the fight or flight function to help us to be able to solve the problem. And what I in 2012, after this spontaneous healing experience, I then started looking for modalities that mapped the mind body medicine space.
Right.
And then again, I studied a lot of different bodies of knowledge, Louise Hay and all of the Deepak Chopra and all of the guys that were in that type of space.
Hmm.
And there was a fairly now famous series called The Truth About Cancer, done by the Bollinger family. And they had a whole they'd done tons of research on mind-body medicine, and they had a German doctor on that series called Dr. Hummer that had reportedly a 92% success rate at healing terminally ill cancer patients, i.e. when medical doctors sent cancer patients home to die, they went to Dr. Hummer and he basically helped 92% of them to fully recover their health. So I'm like, okay, right, that sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
And what happened, he got his 92% number because in one of the many times that he got prison sentences for healing 92% of cancer patients, terminally ill cancer patients, the prosecution subpoenaed 6,500 of his terminally ill cancer patient files, and basically called up every single one of his patients to
Right.
find out what their state of health was, and over 6,000, or 92% of those 6,500 patients were not only alive when they were supposed to be dead,
Right.
but they were in full health. And
Oh, so they were like in remission then.
no,
Was
they
it
weren't in remission. They were back to full health.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this German doctor has he's a traditionally trained medical doctor. In fact, he's the youngest doctor to ever qualify to practice medicine in Germany. He's one of those genius types.
Very impressive.
Um, when he was in his late 40s, his 19-year-old son was shot and murdered by a Italian crown prince. Basically, and what happened with this German medical doctor was 2 months after his son died, he got an aggressive form of testicular cancer. Now, according to his training as a medical doctor, cancer comes because you lose the cancer lottery, right? It just falls out of the sky. And you got unlucky on this lottery. But Dr. Hammond didn't believe that he couldn't help thinking. I mean, 2 months earlier, his son died, right? And after
Yeah.
2 months, he gets an aggressive cancer on a reproductive organ right after his son dying, and he thought that it couldn't be a coincidence.
Right.
He had surgery, he had his testicle removed, but he did not have chemotherapy or radiation,
Hmm.
as most doctors don't. I'm led to believe. But at the time, he was the head of cancer research in a gynecological oncology cancer unit outside or associated with Munich University in Germany.
Mm.
So he was working with 200 female terminally ill cancer patients, and what he wanted to do is he wanted to see whether they had gone through the same type of unexpected traumatic experience that he had gone through when his son died.
Right.
And what happened is he interviewed 200 women, all with different breast cancer or cervical cancer or uterine cancer, or the female cancers, right?
Yeah.
And out of 200 women, every single one, all 200 of them had gone through some form of unexpected traumatic experience before they got cancer, right? And when he started to put them into separate categories of mammary gland breast cancer, ductal breast cancer,
Right.
or cervical cancer, ovarian cancer, etc., what he observed is that the women in the same category had suffered from exactly the same traumatic experience. So, for example, the women who had ovarian cancer had all gone through some form of profound loss, in the same way that he went through a profound loss by losing his son. Now, fast forward nearly 40 years of cancer research, with working directly with over 50,000 cancer patients. What this German medical doctor concluded basically is that cancer is in fact not a disease. It's a survival biological response to an unexpected trauma. Okay, so in his case, his son was shot and
Yeah.
died, right, when
Yeah.
he was 19.
Wow.
And in that situation, what nature did was increase the size of his testicle which had the biological purpose of increasing his sperm and testosterone production so that he had a better chance of getting his wife pregnant so that he could replace the child he just lost. Okay? And what he also discovered along the journey is that if he had indeed, and of course he didn't know this at the time, right? Because he was a traditional medical doctor.
Right.
If he had in fact got his wife pregnant, he would have fulfilled the biological purpose of that program. And in the same way, it switched on automatically by his son dying, the trauma of his son dying. If he had have fulfilled the biological purpose of that program, it would have also switched off, and the extra capacity that was added to his testicle would have been removed naturally by the microbes in his body and reverted back to its normal capacity.
Right.
So these programs work in a very similar way to a menstrual cycle. Okay, in a menstrual cycle, tissue is added to the walls of the uterus in order to facilitate a pregnancy.
Right.
Okay, now, if you don't get pregnant, that tissue is removed with bleeding.
Right.
Because you didn't need it. So the way it works is tissue is added, tissue is removed, tissue is added, tissue is removed. Okay?
Yeah.
For his testicle, the tissue was added to increase his capacity to get his wife pregnant. And if he had have got his wife pregnant, then the tissue would have been removed in the same way it does for a menstrual cycle. So what he's essentially discovered is that our body functions in a very similar fashion to the vehicle of your car. Okay? If you see a danger ahead on the road and you're driving your vehicle, you have two choices. You can either put your foot on the accelerator and bypass the danger, which will increase your speed or increase your capacity when you're driving.
Right.
Or you can put your foot on the brake and you can stop before you reach the danger. So you will reduce your capacity by stopping the vehicle. Cancer operates in exactly the same way. So in Dr. Hummer's case, nature put the foot on the gas to increase his capacity to produce testosterone and sperm by increasing the size of his testicle so that he had a greater capacity to solve that problem. And once Dr. Hummer understood this fundamental connection between unexpected traumatic events in life and how our biology responds in order to either increase or decrease our capacity to help us solve the problem, then essentially what he did, Amy, was he unraveled the biological code and he found the life cause and the biological purpose for the change of every cell of our body. It's quite extraordinary.
Wow. That's
Yes.
That's
Deep.
really interesting and very, very deep. Yes.
That's deep, right?
Yeah.
Sorry,
I mean, you mentioned,
it is what it is, right? I'm
you
trying to
mentioned it with
summarize the top
loss.
lines for you.
You mentioned the trauma they suffered was some type of loss, but do you think it could have been, like something just not necessarily traumatic, but like, mentally draining or emotional, that you kind of keep inside and then something happens?
So nature responds in measure to the level of the headwinds or the trauma that we face in life, right?
Right.
So if you're stressed, you're running late for a meeting, right?
Yeah.
Nature, and you're rushing to get to the meeting. Nature will slightly increase your blood pressure, slightly increase your blood sugar to give you more energy to get
Right.
to the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can measure your pulse rate will increase, your blood sugar will increase, the stress, but only by a little bit, right? If a burglar jumps through your window, basically your blood pressure and your blood sugar and your heart rate and your pulse rate and your stress hormones will
Right.
go through the roof, right?
Yeah.
Because you are potentially in a survival situation, and what nature will do is it will unleash your full capacity in order to help you survive that situation. So cancer is one of the survival responses where you get in an unexpected, highly traumatic, isolating situation where you are caught on the wrong foot, and you need a strong biological response in order to help you to solve that problem. And that's the way it works.
I can relate to that. When my 20 years ago, it actually just was 20 years ago, my husband, he decided to try to kill me. And there was a point where he tried to beat me to death with whatever he could get his hands on. But at some point, at the end, he was trying to just choke me to kill me. But something, I was exhausted and in pain, and some parts of my body I couldn't even feel, but somehow I managed to kick him in the head and just run for my life. And that's
Yep.
what I did.
I bet that's the fastest you've ever run in your life, right?
Yeah, I don't run. Except when I
bet you ran fast then though, right?
Oh, definitely. I ran as fast as I could go, and then I had to hide because I was afraid that he was going to come looking for me. And that was something that actually happened, but I found out later. But it was like something that I could not explain. Here I am. I was totally exhausted and almost ready to give up. And then sometimes people say that your life flashes before your eyes. Well, It was my death that flashed before my eyes. Like my kids who were little at the time, finding me dead, or I could picture my husband like digging a hole in the ground in the backyard, to hide me. And that was like, I don't want to be a statistic. So it just, something made me see what I needed to see and gave me the strength to run as fast as I could.
Yep. That's nature's blessing. That's the survival response only, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a perfect example of how, when you are in a life and death situation, that nature will respond. I mean, you've seen these situations where somebody's trapped underneath a car or something, right? And all of a sudden, this skinny guy comes up, lifts the car up, right? And it's like, oh my God, how did he manage to do that? Because nature, in those moments of intense stress, responds with giving you extraordinary strength in order to help you to survive, right?
Exactly.
And that's the way it works.
Yeah.
And that's what cancer is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I want to thank you very much for being on the show. This was truly enlightening, and I can't wait to read your breast cancer book and the one that just came out for lung cancer.
That's not out yet, Amy. I've not published that one yet.
Oh,
I'm still final stages of editing on that one.
All right.
The breast cancer book has been published.
Great. Yeah. So, and I would look forward to having you back on the show. So I want to thank you. It's the end of another great conversation. Thank you for being on the show, and thank you, audience, for listening. If you wish for you or your book to be on the show, go to amysbookshelfreviews.com/podcast and schedule your pre-recording. Please follow this podcast on Spotify. I'm Amy Shannon. Be safe, be well, and always be kind. Tune in here again next week for another tantalizing discussion. Thank you for listening to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast.